Hello everyone. We left off with this version of Pong, so not entirely working. We can see that the scoreboard does not, in fact, update correctly. As you will see, it still says 0, 0, and our right paddle only goes to the top and bottom, so it does not update our paddle correctly. So instead, what we're going to be working on this class is the first thing we want to do is fix this paddle, and then we're going to go ahead and fix the scoreboard. Luckily for us, our paddle and scoreboard are going to be easy to locate where exactly we need to edit it. So paddle doesn't have anything to do with our paddle class actually, because this is simply talking about the movement and just adding the paddle velocity. However, what it does involve is, in fact, the key down and key up. So in a moment, we will have to detect, all right, where exactly is our problem located. So we'll notice that this place where we go ahead and we monitor what keys are being hit, we will see that our we have our event.type key down is equal to key down event, and then we also have the same thing for key up event. And those are the only two methods that are actually called inside of this for loop over here. And this only happens when an event occurs. So basically, when you're pressing down a key or when all keys are lifted up. So essentially always, but it's important to get those two cases down. So we want to go ahead and look at our two methods for now, and we want to see if we can detect the problem. So we go over here, and why don't we start up with our key up function, right? It's very important to note that when we go ahead and we analyze the problem, we know exactly what the problem is. And what the problem is that when we go ahead and we press our key and we let go of it, it's continuing to push that key downwards, meaning that the key up function is not working properly. And we can quickly detect that this right here is the problem, that it is always updating only paddle 1, and instead we have to add paddle velocity as a parameter, and we want to make sure we have our paddle velocity as a parameter in our key up. However, that's not entirely going to work, and instead we have to monitor its slightly more, it's going to be a different implementation compared to our Pong rewrite, which is right over here. If we go into our key up right over here, you'll notice that we have our paddle 2 velocity, paddle 1 velocity, exactly like this. Of course, we can keep it like that right now, so we can keep it 1 and 2. I'm not sure if that's the correct order, actually. That's reversed. It should be 2 and 1. And it should be over here at the beginning. And we'll see that it will work like this. Is this the most efficient way? No, but in order for us to go ahead and change over this entire method to make it easy enough for us to kind of make these changes for any paddle, it would require a complete haulover of this method. And what I mean by this is essentially we have to then put in our events, so KW, KS, and K up, K down, and then we would also have to put our paddle velocity as a parameter, and we would also have to put the event as a parameter inside of our for loop over here. And essentially, there's no point in really moving this code out from our method inside here to out here when we only have 2 paddles. Maybe if we had 200 paddles, that would be worth it, because 200 paddles is obviously quite a lot to write. Maybe even 20 paddles would be more than enough, but obviously we're only dealing with 2 here, so there's no need to make this change. And now we can go ahead and test if our change did in fact fix this problem. So we're going to go ahead and run this, and it actually looks like it has not fixed the problem. So I guess there's another problem. So instead, it actually, well, now both paddles are broken. So we have to see exactly what our problem is. Alright, so let's look back over here. Let's look back in the keyUp function. And we want to see, alright, what exactly did we change when we went ahead and we rewrote this? So let's Control-Z everything. There we go. So that was our last change. And essentially in this run right here, our left side works perfectly fine, right? And the change that we made is essentially, instead of going ahead and changing that, we went ahead and edited this one to become a 2 instead of a 1. So now we can go ahead and do this, and wow, both of them work now. So I guess maybe it was a problem of ordering. We maybe messed up the ordering the first time we did it around. But now we can see that both paddles work just fine. However, our scoreboard still does not work, as it does not update on both sides. So this is an example of just being able to debug properly. There's many different ways you can do this. First of all, if you know that you have an error in your program, if you don't know too much about the error, you're going to have to look over the entire program. That's obviously very inefficient, and especially when your program's 200 lines long, that's going to take a while. So kind of narrowing the scope is the best thing that you can possibly do when it comes to this. And when we detected that it had something to do with the paddle, we could narrow it down to our paddle class and to our paddle movement. And we determined that all the paddle movement is controlled by the functions or methods outside of the class. So we were able to eliminate the class from our debug as well. And finally, since we understood that it was moving perfectly fine when we were pressing the up and down keys, and instead the problem was when we weren't pressing the up or down keys, we realized that the problem is not in key down, but in key up. So that's kind of how you're able to narrow it down all the way. And once you go ahead and you narrow it down and you make a change, and say it doesn't work after your first change, that's perfectly fine. But if you can analyze that it changed in the right area, so maybe instead, the paddle would just never move, right? Then we would know that, all right, well, at least we changed the right category, because instead of the paddle always going from end to end, it's just not moving now. So it's a good thing to know where exactly your error is occurring. So now the next thing we want to do is go ahead and edit our scoreboard function. So scoreboard is going to be a little tougher to edit, as it does appear in multiple parts of this program. And if we just go ahead and quickly Control F score, we can see all the highlights of it. So we'll see it in our ball class, and we will also see it in our draw function as well as our draw scoreboard. Draw scoreboard is simply drawing it. There's nothing much else to it. And instead, we do need to take a closer look at our draw and our ball class. So inside draw, we'll notice we first initialize the variables. Nothing too special. We can't get that part wrong, right? But the next thing we want to go ahead and look at is our ball movement function call right here. And ball movement is a part of our ball class. So ball movement is this function right here. And ball movement, it doesn't call any other functions, so we can purely look at exactly what's going on here. So essentially, we go down, we go down, we go down, and we see, all right, this is where R score and L score are eventually called. Well, how are we going to deal with this? So we have to look at this in a little bit of detail. First of all, we want to make sure our parameters are in order, and we can see, all right, paddle 1, paddle 2, R score, L score. And we go here, paddle 1, paddle 2, R score, L score. That is good. Right, so I want you to take a moment to see if you can find the issue here, or if there is any issue. All right, so this one is a bit cryptic when it comes to what exactly is happening here. It's good that we name the variables in such a way that we know exactly what this means. So, what exactly does this mean? Well, first of all, let's check this first if statement. So essentially, if the ball position is less than or equal to the ball radius plus pad width, and the y value of the ball position is in range of some value, right? Then it will go ahead and perform these functions. And essentially what this means is that it's basically confirming that the ball hit the paddle, right? However, the ball can hit more than one thing, right? The ball can hit a paddle, or the ball can hit a gutter, right? The gutter being the sides behind the paddle. So you miss hitting the ball, and instead you have to deal with losing a point. Well, what's happening wrong over here? Well, it doesn't seem like there's anything quite wrong over here, right? We can see, all right, if the ball position is less than or equal to ball radius plus pad width, then certain things happen, and our R score plus or equal 1, and the ball resets. Same exact thing happens in L score, so it doesn't seem like there's an issue in this part of our program. Instead, we want to go ahead and take a look here. Is there anything wrong over here? Well, we can see now it calls draw scoreboard, right? And draw scoreboard is essentially where we update the score to what the score should be, right? So one thing that we can do is a very powerful feature of debugging is using the print, right? When we come out of our ball movement function right here, did it update the score correctly? And if it didn't, then we can go back to the ball movement function and look at it a little bit closer. However, if we go ahead and we write this and it does in fact update properly, then that indicates that the problem is no longer in our ball movement function, but instead in draw scoreboard. So we can go ahead and run this, and we can see, all right, it's printing 0, 0, 0. So it's never updating essentially. And what this means is that we can go back to the ball movement function and be confident that the error is right inside this function right here. Right? We go back over to our ball movement function, and again, we want to utilize our print, right? Is our print working properly? Well, we can go ahead and say print our score should add here, right? And we can do the exact same thing with L score. L score should add here. And we can run this again, and we are seeing that, all right, it is in fact updating properly, right? It's getting to this point right here, but something is not happening correctly, and it's not able to give us the value that we really need, right? So what exactly is happening? Well, we want to look around and see, all right, is R score and L score ever properly, initialized, right? Well, we have our L score, R score right here. It's initialized, and we see that it is defined up here, right? So we want to know, all right, is R score even being updated, right? We see that R score should be reached at this point in time, but is R score really being updated properly? Once again, we utilize our print here. Very, very powerful, and we want to make sure we put in the right spot right after the score should update. And we run it, and we see, all right, it seems to be not updating properly, right? It updated the first time on R score, but it never updated on L score. So at this point, we want to wonder, well, what exactly is the issue here? Is it that R score is not being stored properly, right? We can go ahead and test this by simply putting one here, before and after. Very logical, right? We just put a before and after statement. And we can do the exact same thing with our L score to monitor our problem right here. All right, and these prints can be whatever you want as long as you understand how to read it. All right, and we can see, all right, it seems to be adding properly on R score and not being stored correctly. And on L score, it doesn't seem to be adding to itself at all, right? So now we want to wonder, all right, before it's even passed into our ball movement function, are R score and L score properly defined? So our score, or we need to print our score. Print our score. And L score. And we can go ahead and run this, and we can see, all right, after all this time, it seems like it's always being stored as 1. So what's a way we can go ahead and try and correct this? Well, we can try and return the value, right? And when we return the value, essentially, we don't think that the score is properly being updated. So instead, we're going to take it into our own hands to go ahead and make sure that it's updated properly every single time by storing the values of R score and L score into the variables just like this. Right? And we can try this again, and we can see, all right. So now there seems to be some sort of progress being made, right? If it blocks it right here, it seems like, all right, it's working just fine, and it's scoring on the correct sides, right? And if we are to get a point on this side, then we can see, all right, it's adding properly, right? Everything seems to be going on well. There seems to be no issue here. Well, if we go ahead and we want to comment out our print right here, actually we want to kind of comment out every single print because we no longer have our same issue, and we want to see, is this working properly? We come here and we see, all right, wait, why is this already a 1 when the game starts? In case you guys didn't see that, look at this, right? The score is already 1 before anyone actually scores a point. So why exactly is this happening, right? Well, it's reaching this position before it should actually reach this position. So we want to test, all right, what could be the problem here, right? We come here and we want to print our value of this, and then we want to print our other side of this, and we also want to test whether or not ball radius and paddle width are even values. Just like that. And we can see, all right, it seems to be going on fine here. And now that the scores are updating, we can see that every single time it comes here, it's giving out the correct coordinates. And if we are to say move the ball around a little bit, let's score in a different area, then we can get ourselves a different kind of outlook. Is that the right score? Alright, so let's wait for it to score on both sides, and let's score on this side. Alright, there we go. So now we have enough data points to understand exactly what is happening here, right? So in our very first score, our ball position is 0, and our ball radius and pad width are 28, and ball radius and pad width are 20 and 8 respectively. So why exactly is it reaching this point if this statement, or if this statement is not true? At the moment, it does not actually make any sense, as 0 is obviously less than or equal to 28. I don't quite see the issue at the moment. So this could be a little bit of a complex issue. So I will have to look into it. But for this class, hopefully we made enough progress for you to kind of really understand how to debug that first part where we fixed our paddle movement. And now our scoreboard is now updating at least, but obviously it is giving one false update before it goes ahead and gives out all the rest of the correct updates. So for now, I do not have anything else. Yeah, I can't quite detect why the L score and R score aren't updating. Are updating in the first time the ball is even spawned in. But I will be able to see you guys next week, and we will hopefully be able to finish our Pong class program, and we will be able to move on to extensions of the program and how we can kind of build off of our current base and why classes are so useful in being able to move forward in projects like these.